This video is going to talk about moving steel buck window frames and putting in egress windows or another window. It's the same process, just a bigger hole. So this is going to talk about the demo of removing the metal buck and putting in a new window. First step is digging out the holes, measuring where you want the new windows, removing the metal buck, sealing your corners, waterproofing, and then you're pretty much done with demo. So here's what our window wells look like before. As you can see, they were pretty rusted out, and so we decided that we needed to replace them. So here I'm digging the holes. These are for the egress windows, so they needed to be 3 feet away from the foundation, and then they needed to be about a foot deeper than the actual window well was going to be. I decided to dig it by hand instead of getting a mini excavator, and after a week of digging holes, I wish I would have gotten a mini excavator, but I'm cheap. So after we got the holes dug, we are ready to remove the metal window buck. So here's my dad cutting it with a sawzall and then trying to pry it out with a pry bar. These turned out to be a bigger pain than we thought and a lot harder to get out. It's easier to start either at the bottom of the metal buck or the top of the metal buck, and then once you get the bottom or the top out, then to work on the sides. As you can see, it does chip the concrete as you pry it out, and that was one of our main concerns with doing the other 3 metal bucks ourselves. It just didn't look very clean. The metal buck has a concrete lip that runs down the middle of all 4 sides, which makes it complicated when trying to pry it off. And the top one, in our case, had a piece of rebar that goes through the lip. So just be aware of that when you're removing your metal buck. Here's the metal buck after it's been removed from the foundation. Once you have the metal buck removed from the foundation, mark your rough opening size with chalk. We did it on the inside of the house and the outside of the house just so the concrete cutters wouldn't be confused when they came to cut. We put up a plastic barrier to keep the water from spraying far into the house when the concrete cutters were cutting. So we just put this plastic sheeting up with a drop cloth on the floor to help soak up the water.
Okay, we finally did it. We got the windows cut out, and as you can see, the concrete's down here.
As you can see, the cut is very smooth and looks a lot better than when we tried to pry out the metal buck ourselves. You'll also notice that at the bottom, the blade goes a little bit further than the window rough opening size. We kept the top lip of the window so that we would avoid having to install a lintel, and then the concrete cutters jackhammered the concrete so it was easier to remove. Here's a closer look at the metal buck after it had been cut out by the concrete cutters.
Let me get a close up here. So you can see the blade goes a little bit farther than like the actual window opening. So we're just going to close that off. First step is to get a wire brush and clean up the corners. Here. I'm just using concrete siliconized filler and sealant. It's a great color. Okay, so we're just going to put this in the corner speed.
Again, we siliconed all 4 corners of the window where the blade had gone farther than the rough opening size to keep water out and to make it look nice. Here we're brushing the window frame to keep dust off so we can waterproof it. Once clean, we used a concrete protector and waterproofer on all 4 insides of the window opening, and then also 4 to 6 inches on the outside of the window. And that's it for the demo process for removing metal bucks and preparing to install new egress windows. Stay tuned for part 2, where we cover installing the window wells.